This section heading is called Environment Variables Java. So now what we're going to do within this section is we're going to ease administration for this user within the terminal. The way that we're going to do that is we're going to provide the capability to execute some scripts that come with our Java installation and to be able to execute them from almost anywhere within the terminal. So now the first thing I'm having you do within the lab is just to list the directory that's used to house those scripts. So they're inside of user lib, JVM, and then inside of your installation directory, you're going to find a bin directory. Inside of that bin directory, you're going to see those scripts. So some of these scripts can be used when managing our Hadoop cluster. And as I said a moment ago, we want to provide the capability to execute these scripts from almost anywhere within the terminal. So before we begin, what is an environment variable? So an environment variable, simply put, is a container that we use to store stuff into. What we're going to store within our environment variables is path information. So we can use the echo command to see if an environment variable has been defined within this environment. So the environment being our terminal. So we're going to check to see if an environment variable by the name of Java Home has been defined. And what we're going to find is that it has not. The way that we can tell it is not is because we're not returned anything. So now let's see what happens when we echo an environment variable that has been defined. So just like this name implies, what it's storing is essentially a bunch of paths. So we have a bunch of paths that are separated by a colon. So now we're going to explain this one because this is the one that's basically going to provide us with that functionality to be able to access these scripts from almost anywhere within the terminal. So if we look up here, we have a bunch of scripts, right? So we can refer to them as scripts, we can refer to them as executables, we can also refer to them as commands. So we can see over here we have the JPS command, right? So within the terminal, every time you execute a command, what it does is it searches every one of these paths for an executable by that name, and if it finds it, then it executes it. If the path to the script is not within the path variable, then what you have to do is you either have to set your working directory to the directory that's used to house the scripts and execute it that way, or from within the prompt over here, provide the path to the script and then execute it. Now, because we're not within the path variable, what happens here is because it doesn't understand it, the package manager actually returned a list of packages to install. Alright, so now the way that we're going to define our environment variables is we're going to define them inside what is known as the .bashrc file. So this file is within the user's home directory. Now if we list the content of our home directory, we can't see the file. The reason we can't see the file is because it has a dot in front of it. So in Linux, your hidden files are prepended with a dot. So if we want to view that file, then we have to add the -a switch, and then we'll be able to see the hidden files as well. So now what this file is used for is it's used to define environment variables that will only be made available to this user within the terminal. So we're going to edit this file using nano, and then we're going to append them to the bottom of this file. So to go to the end, we're going to do a Control-Shift_. We're going to get a list of options, and one of them is this one down here. So this caret over to the left is the control key. So we're going to do a Control-V. This will bring us to the bottom of the file, and now we'll define our environment variables. So first we're going to add a comment. We're going to say Java for managing Hadoop. And on the next line, we're going to say export. So the export command is going to be used to make the environment variable that we're going to define to the right accessible or available to the environment. Once again, the environment is our terminal. So we're going to now define the environment variable. So it's going to be Java Home equals, and then what we're going to provide here is the path to our installation directory. So user lib, and then JVM, and then it's JDK 1.6.0_45. Next, we will define a new path variable. So this path variable is going to store what's currently in path, and then we're going to append a new path, and that's going to be the path to our bin directory within our Java installation. Alright, so now to save and exit, we're going to do a Control X, press Y to save, and then press Enter. Okay, so now if we check to see if the environment variables are defined, what we're going to find is that they are not. Now the reason for that is because those changes within that .bashrc file haven't been read in yet. So you could do this one of two ways. You could close the terminal, open a new one, or within the current terminal you can source the file. So we can type source.bashrc. And now if we say, hey user in the terminal, do you understand where Java is? It says, yep, it's down the following path. And then if we say, can you access that script? It says, yep. Now to understand how this user can access this script from this location, once again, it's because the path to the script is within the path variable. So once again here we'll echo the path variable, and then what you'll find is that the path to the binaries directory within our Java installation has now been appended to path.